Hey guys, Paul here. It's been a while since a walk with Winnigerst, and I'm on my normal trail. And today I want to continue a talk on how to change or how to start a new good habit or how to change an old bad habit, which is really a continuation off of, this is like a part 3 off of 2 posts we did in our blog. So part 1 of our blog talked about some of the triggers. Part 2 of our blog posts talked about the situations that you're in that usually lead to triggering a routine that goes down a bad habit. And now this is part 3. So you can go back and check out part 1 and 2 on our blog. If you don't follow our blog, I don't want to talk to you. Just kidding. So this is going to tie it all together because I'm going to give you some actionable items. Habit is really an interesting topic for me because with fitness, weight loss, fat loss, so many people concentrate so much on the actual details, meaning the diet, the science, the workout, and they neglect the part that comes before that, which is you actually doing it. So who cares how good your diet is if you're not even going to do it? All right, I've talked a lot about that, and I've talked about how willpower in past walks I don't believe works. So to frame this whole thing, there's 3 parts, and then there's a bonus part at the end that you can or you may not want to do, but it helps. So the 3 parts and their remedy is, number 1 is the awareness or the trigger. Number 2 is then the routine that leads to your habit, whether it be a good or bad habit, or the pattern interrupt during that routine that can switch that. And then at the end is the actual habit, which gives you some kind of reward. You're doing that habit because you have some kind of reward. Now, you might not like the consequence of that reward, or you may love the consequence of the reward, and that's why you have both good and bad habits, right? So I'm going to take you through these 3 real quick. Now, awareness, that's part 1. There are certain triggers that will lead you down the routine to your habit. And I wrote down a line here. Charles Duhigg is the author of a book called The Power of Habit, and he said this perfectly, so I wanted to just read it verbatim with my notes. If you don't know what triggered the old behavior, you will never change it because you've already been doing it before you know it. If you don't know what triggered the old behavior, you'll never change it because you'll already be doing it before you know it. That's thus the habit, right? So cool thing we do in FatBurn here is we do tracking. We track body compositions, but we also have calendars where we mark down how many meals we ate during the week correctly versus incorrectly, how many workouts we did. This way, instead of you just thinking you ate well, after you start gathering data, you start realizing what you're actually doing. So each one of these parts also is going to take some work. You don't just stop a bad habit easily. You don't just stop smoking. You don't just stop drinking easily, right? You have to do some work at each one of these 3 phases. The work in the awareness phase is putting in the time to figure out what's leading that trigger. Now, in part 2 of our blog post, we put an acronym called HALT, which stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Those are the 4 times you are most likely to slip up or trigger yourself down the routine to a bad habit. But with awareness, if you start realizing by writing down what happened before you did your bad habit, you might start seeing some commonalities. Like if you write down the time it happens, the place you were at when it happened, who you were with, how you were feeling, and you keep doing that, like I guess a smoker or a drinker, if you start writing down how you were feeling before every cigarette or where you were or who you were with, you're going to start realizing probably some common things there, which will at least identify the trigger for you, okay? That's part 1. Part 2 is then the routine, the actual, physical action or mental action of you going down the road to leading you toward your bad or good habit. So in part 1 of our blog post, we talked about a pattern interrupt, something that will disrupt that routine that's going to lead you to do the things that you didn't want to do before. So here's the second quote, or not really quote, but cool thing I wanted to add when it comes to pattern interrupts. There's another gentleman by the name of BJ Fogg. He has a website called tinyhabits.com, and he talks about something really cool, which he calls a micro habit. And he defines a micro habit as something that takes you less than 60 seconds to do, right? So he says, or he theorizes, that a habit occurs by going deep, which is like doing something so many times over and over again that you stop thinking about it and you're just kind of on autopilot. So, hello. Runners over here intercepting my walk. I welcome it. So back to the micro habit, right? You have to do something so many times to get it ingrained into your mind to where you don't even have to think about it. So when we're going back to trying to break an old habit, a bad habit, a pattern interrupt, once you've identified what your trigger is, the cool part next is you can come up with something to do instead of the routine to help you to not lead you to that bad habit, but make it under 60 seconds so that it's something you'll actually do, and it's something that you can actually do over and over again. Now, are these foolproof plans? No, of course not. And it does take work, but at least you'll get some ideas of what you can start trying on your own and some cool tips to start recording on your own, right? If you take that from this, then you're down the right path. So let's do an example here. So let's say, at 4 o'clock every day, I get up and I don't even want to make up an example. I'd rather give you a real example. So let me just keep talking and I'll think of an example as we go. I'm going to get to number 3 and then I'll wrap the whole thing up with an example. Number 3 is the reward. Whether it's a good or bad habit, there is a good or bad reward, which solidifies why you're doing it. So people talk about Facebook and some of these apps that are so addicting. And the reason that you're hooked is because you're constantly getting that reward, that feedback, those likes on Facebook makes you want to keep coming back and checking. Those coins you're getting in those apps makes you want to come back and keep checking. The stock market, seeing the prices of those stocks go up and down, it's constantly stimulating. That's a constant reward that you're getting, right? So what are the rewards you're getting from your good habits and what are the rewards you're getting from your bad habits? Because if you're going to replace the bad habit, you still want to implement a reward that's going to solidify you doing that new activity for 60 seconds, or you're just going to stop doing it because then you're going to be relying on your willpower. Willpower is I'm going to do this new pattern interrupt 60 seconds of air squats instead of going to smoke a cigarette. But then what's the reward? How about every time you do 60 seconds of air squats instead of a cigarette, you put $1 or you put $5 in a can, and then when you get to $100, you buy yourself a new pair of sneakers. Who knows? The point is it's positive association now with that pattern interrupt and that 60-second activity that's going to still give you a reward. I hope you get my point there. All right, so those are the 3 things that can help you change a bad habit. Figuring out what your awareness is by knowing your triggers. Introducing a pattern interrupt to replace the old routine with something under 60 seconds, a new micro habit. Number 3 is putting in a reward for you actually doing that micro habit and then doing it over and over and over again. Eventually you'll develop yourself a new habit, or eventually you'll get yourself out of the old habit. Now, if you really want to solidify this whole thing, that bonus part I was telling you about is don't rely on doing this all yourself. Putting yourself in a group of people, I don't even know the stats of how much it increases the likelihood of you succeeding, but it does. All right, so without me making up some BS percentage, because I don't know, it helps you dramatically. Alcoholics Anonymous, working out in a group, having a friend or a buddy to accomplish or break a habit with will help your cause or help you down the path of succeeding, okay? So that's the bonus there at the end. Now, I could keep some examples. We're at 9.5 minutes. I like to keep these under 10. So what I'd rather do is this. Why don't you guys go ahead and post some examples in the comments below. Post some good habits you have, post some bad habits you're trying to break, and we can come up with a little discussion of some of the triggers, some of the pattern interrupts we use, and then some of the rewards we're giving ourselves, and we can help each other out. Trust me, I got plenty of bad habits that I like to break, but I got a lot of good ones. So, to another walk with Winnegers. It's a beautiful day. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, comment below and let me know. See you soon.